Portions of the following program may contain pre-recorded material.
Morning glory, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. Bonjour, hi, Canada. I'm still not there. It's Tuesday. I'm still in Wyoming, and Kurt Schlichter is back for day 2 of the Schlichter Show. We don't want to really call it that. I don't want him to get any ideas. As it is, he's beginning to leave his clothes in the studio, and that worries me a little bit. There might be a coup someday. I think Generalissimo will be involved in it. But Colonel Kurt's actually got a new book out. You ought to get that. And thank you very much, Kurt, for taking over for me for a couple of days. Take it away.
And thank you, Hugh Hewitt. This is Kurt Schlichter conducting the coup because we conservatives are extremists. We're going to be talking about that in just a minute because that's the new narrative du jour. Republicans, the worst extremists ever was. Who the heck am I? I am Kurt Schlichter. I am senior columnist at townhall.com. I'm the author of the new book, We'll Be Back, The Fall and Rise of America, which, if I was clever, I would have a copy of. Oh, there is one right there. Let's move this over here. Block out Hugh's name. We'll make that happen. I'm also the author of the Kelly Turnbull series of conservative action novels, which you should go get because they are amazing, if I say so myself. And I do because I'm not modest. I am a noted Los Angeles trial lawyer. If you have a lawyer who is modest, he probably knows something and has a reason for it. I'm also a retired United States Army colonel. And as I mentioned, I'm one of those conservative extremists. I was a cavalry commander. I screened the right flank for my friend Hugh Hewitt when he is off. And, I assume command here in the Relief Factor studio in beautiful downtown California. It is... It's an honor, and it's a privilege, and it's also, it is also it's a troubling time for us in America. It is a scary, scary time where you have the FBI running rampant, ignoring the laws, ignoring the rules. Norms, get away, because Trump, there's an exception for Trump. There's an exception to the Constitution. There's an exception to every rule. There's an exception to every custom. It's the Trump exception. Did you see what's happening yesterday? With this ridiculous raid, and I'm being FCC compliant here, folks. When I call it merely ridiculous, I as a graduate of a law school, I have a legal background, and I'm looking at this warrant, and I don't do criminal law. But it seems kind of broad when they're allowed to take anything and everything. That doesn't seem like it is specifying with particularity the items to be seized. But again, the Trump exception to every rule. Because Trump is an unprecedented challenge to the power of our garbage ruling class. Man, I sound like a Marxist, don't I? Ruling class? Wow. That's entirely accurate. We have a class of self-appointed leaders, many of them with credentials from the best colleges. And they are venal, corrupt, unaccomplished. They are cultural trust fund babies who inherited this country and its institutions and are squandering it. Like a Kennedy or Biden kid parked out in front of a crack house in a broken-down old Fuller Taurus with an Estonian hooker asleep in the back seat. That is our ruling class, folks. They are trash. But don't believe me. Let's listen to what Ron DeSantis has to say. Cut number 10, please.
These agencies have now been weaponized to be used against people that the government doesn't like. And you look at the raid at Mar-a-Lago, and I'm trying to remember, maybe someone here can remind me about when they did a search warrant at Hillary's house in Chappaqua when she had a rogue server and she was laundering classified information. I don't remember them doing that. I do remember them manufacturing a false conspiracy theory about Russia collusion. I remember that. That was not true. That was an abuse of power. I remember a lawyer for the FBI got caught doctoring an application for FISA surveillance against an innocent man. I remember the FBI at Merrick Garland's direction being sicked on parents going to school board meetings. Meanwhile, when you have a law that protects Supreme Court justices, is the FBI out there protecting our conservative justices? No. When you have violations of law where people are targeting pregnancy crisis centers, are they doing their job and enforcing the law there? No. They're enforcing the law based on who they like and who they don't like. That is not a republic. Well, it may be. It's a banana republic when that happens.
Wow. I don't know. Dwayne, this Ron DeSantis kid, I like the cut of his jib.
He's
also, what's a jib? I don't know. It seems like a nautical term. I don't swing that way.
He does seem to be speaking a lot of
hard truth there.
A lot of hard truth there.
He's got some. That's one potent fella. I think he's got it. There's another guy, John Yoo. He's a lawyer, and he's with Shannon Bream on Fox. Let's listen to what he says. Cut number 9.
I think it points out that the search is overbroad for the alleged crime that occurred. For example, the claim that we saw in the warrant, and we're still waiting to see what the affidavit says, and the Justice Department's opposing the production of that. The warrant talks about possession of classified information, but then it says that you can collect every single document that was produced in the time period that President Trump was president. Most of those documents are not going to be classified. Most of those documents have nothing to do with any alleged criminal activity in the warrant. I bet a lot of the material that was taken that should be returned as overbroad and overcollected is probably that kind of material. Apparently, they took President Trump's passports. That has nothing to do with any kind of criminal activity. If they took attorney-client information or they took executive privilege information, some of those documents do belong in the possession of the government, but they really should not have been taken because they have nothing to do with any alleged criminal activity. So Janet Napolitano, she was president of the University of California. She was my boss, but she's not anymore. Now she's back to being a professor, but I have to respectfully disagree with her this one time.
Well, yeah. Look, here was my favorite thing yesterday, right? When, Trump says, they took my passports. What would the passports be proof of criminal activity for? They took my passports. And then I think it was Nora O'Donnell and the rest of the media was like, the FBI has announced that they did not, in fact, take his passports. It's another Trump lie. So, of course, Trump releases this email from the FBI going, we've got your passports. We have those. Everything is a lie and a scam, folks. Everything is a lie and a scam. I want to know what you think. I want you to call in. And I know that our audience at 3 a.m. California time is mostly drunken truckers and lonely shut-ins. Just kidding. I love you guys. You guys are great. 800-520-1234. That's 800-520-1234. Give me a call. Tell me what you think of the FBI. Do you trust the FBI? Peter Strzok says you ought to trust the FBI. He's that Satan-looking guy. He's on Morning Joe. That's strike 2 right there. Cut number 7.
Well, Joe, absolutely the American public should trust what the FBI is doing. You know, what's funny is I think back the year and a half that I spent with the team looking at Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server, there was no concern. There was no outrage on behalf of any Republican as we used search warrants, as we went out and did a very invasive investigation to try and get to the bottom of what she did or didn't do. So it's not that the FBI is targeting any one side or the other.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they went all out. Oh, okay, Hillary. Here, can you tell us how we can investigate this? I'd like your permission. And I know that you erased thousands and thousands of emails that are under subpoena, but that's okay because you're special. You're special. We should trust the FBI. We should trust Peter Strzok. Hey, I trust Peter Strzok as much as his wife trusts him. That's not a lot. That's not a lot, guys. Remember, because he was having the affair with the lady in the FBI, and it's classy. Lisa Page, that's a class act. Again, I say trust Peter Strzok as much as his wife can. So, yeah. Let's just end with Nancy Pelosi. Cut number 1.
And so now we're going to cut the cake. We're going to cut the cake so that we can celebrate this birthday, as well as to say that we are, as we cut the cake and celebrate the birthday, we're going to make sure that the Republicans keep their hands off our Social Security. Yes.
Happy birthday! Cut the cake. Keep your hands off your Social Security. She's not senile. 800-520-1234. Give me a call. I am Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. What do you think of the FBI? What do you think of birthday cakes? Give me a call. 800-520-1234 on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. We'll be right back.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you by Food for the Poor.
We are watching the detectives here. Thank you, Elvis Costello. You know from that bumper music that it's got to be Kurt Schlichter guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. 800-520-1234. Give me a call. Tell me what you think about the FBI. Are you watching the detectives? 800-520-1234. Before we go to the calls, and we've got a lot of calls, but we have more. We have room for more. So 800-520-1234. I want to tell you about Food for the Poor. Please allow me a quick moment to thank everyone who's donated so far in Hugh Hewitt's Summertime Food for the Poor campaign. Look, inflation is still raging. Gas prices are dropping a bit. In what world is that? But they are still too high. And the pressure everyone feels at the grocery store checkout means the world to me that many of you have been so generous to help kids halfway around the world whom you never met. But the need's real. It's urgent, as we hear from this refugee camp in Ukraine from ABC News.
So roughly more than 2 million children have been displaced because of the war that is happening in Ukraine. There is a very conscious effort from all of the organizations that are working on this project to make sure that they make it as easy as possible for the families. But they are very concerned about what this will look like weeks, months down the road when obviously aid starts to wane a bit.
And that's where you come in. Right now, please go to HughHewitt.com. Make a tax-deductible donation by clicking on the big Send Food banner right there on his website. Your one-time gift in any amount will bless a hungry child at HughHewitt.com. Or if you prefer, you can call with your gift, 855-359-4673. That's 855-359-HOPE to help our friends at the Christian nonprofit relief organization, Food for the Poor. Okay. All right. The FBI, resolved. The FBI is garbage and should be disbanded. Convince me otherwise. Bob in Pennsylvania, go.
Hey, Kurt, good morning. This is what I think. I think all of us hardworking, conservative, middle-class people, they want to get rid of all of us. We're a threat to them. They only want people that want to mooch off the government and the high elites. I think that's what I think.
Bob, you are based. You know what time it is. You are the conservative version of woke. I agree with you. I think they see people who are normal, people who work for a living, who build things, feed things, fuel things, and defend things, are the enemy.
That's people that care about this country, Kurt.
Exactly.
That really fought and died, our families.
Exactly. And it's because these people who run our institutions, because they went to Harvard or Yale, they have accomplished nothing. Okay? I keep talking about this. I keep talking about this generation, Bob. They've given us Iraq. They've given us the Wall Street meltdown. They've given us Grindr. That's not a legacy of achievement. Now, you are in Pennsylvania. How is the Dr. Oz campaign going from your perspective?
It's going. I'm a bit worried. I know he's out there, but the Democrats have poured so much money into their candidate. He doesn't show his face very much.
Heart attack Shrek?
Yeah. Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah.
Okay, let me throw this out there. Now, my roots are in Pennsylvania. My family's from Chambersburg and Denora. So I have a connection, even though I'm the prodigal Californian. I think that, Dr. Oz has enough money. I don't think he needs a ton of money. He's going out there making connections. He's talking to people one-on-one. He's rebuilding the party. You got David McCormick, Carla Sands. They're going to go and campaign for him. I was in touch with David McCormick the other day. He's going back to Pennsylvania. I talked to Carla Sands at CPAC. She's going to get out there on the campaign trail. Do you think you guys can make it happen with Dr. Oz? Guess another Republican in the Senate.
We do. We're everybody I know, friends, family, we're all voting for him, and we're pushing for that to happen.
Well, thank you very much, Bob, in Pennsylvania. Look, we let's talk to Tom in Pittsburgh real quick. Another Pennsylvania. Tom, you got about 30 seconds. Go.
All right. Yeah. Hey, as far as the FBI goes, I'm concerned because honestly, I watched the whole thing with the parents at the PTA meetings. Now you see this with Trump. They're not afraid. And what bothers me the most is that they don't have their eye on the ball. This reminds me of the year in 2000 after Bush took over, and we have. While they're rummaging through Melania's underwear drawer, how many terrorists are out there running around?
Exactly, Tom. Exactly. 800-520-1234. Give me your insights into the FBI. 800-520-1234. I am Kurt Schlichter, here for the great Hugh Hewitt. We're going to be right back. Stick around.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Birch Gold Group.
Oh, Adam makes another great bumper music selection here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program with guest host Kurt Schlichter, senior columnist at townhall.com, author of the new nonfiction Regnery book, We'll Be Back, The Fall and Rise of America, and the Kelly Turnbull series of conservative action novels, retired United States Army infantry colonel, noted Los Angeles trial lawyer, 800-520-1234. That's 800-520-1234. You can call me and the Hugh Hewitt radio program and share your feelings about the FBI. Let's listen to Jim Jordan on Fox with Trey Gowdy. Cut 8.
Understand the template here. The template never changes with these guys. It's the left creates a lie, big media, mainstream press reports the lie, big tech amplifies the lie, and then when we try to tell the truth, they call us names and try to cancel us and tell the world that, oh, we're the ones not being square with them. So the country, though, the good news is they figured it out, and I'll tell you who else has figured it out, Trey. And you and John, with your background in law enforcement, appreciate this. 14 FBI agents have come to our office as whistleblowers, and they are good people. There are lots of good people in the FBI. It's the top that's the problem. But some of these good agents are coming to us telling us this is baloney what's going on, the political nature now of the Justice Department. God bless them for doing it, coming and talking to us about the school board issue, about a whole host of issues. I mean, it's becoming a well-worn trail of agents who say this has got to stop. And thank goodness for them, and thank goodness that the American people recognizes it, and I believe they're going to make a big change on November 8th.
That's Jim Jordan on Fox with Trey Gowdy talking about whistleblowers from the FBI. Now, good apples, I got to see them because I haven't seen anybody resign in disgust at the at what's happened to the FBI. Actually, I'm not sure if it's what's happened or if the FBI is just remaining in the form it has remained in for almost 100 years, because here's the mistake. And I'm joined by a frequent caller and friend of the show, Yanni. Yanni, here's the thing. In Israel, you have agencies that have actual law enforcement functions, and you have separate agencies like Shin Bet that perform counterintelligence functions. They're not under the same roof. I think it's very dangerous to have those two functions under one roof. I think we're seeing that with the FBI.
I agree with you 100%. I've had the misfortune multiple times in my career to deal with the FBI. First as a member of a anti-terror unit that was sent over to consult with them. And when I questioned a piece of equipment, they said, oh, you're not cleared for that. So I walked out of the room and made an international incident.
Nice.
And the second time I was sent over, I met with the head of counterterrorism pre-9/11 with the FBI. And I said, what's your biggest deficit? And he goes, we don't have enough Farsi and Arabic translators. I said, I can fix that for you. He turned pale and he goes, there's no way we can use Israeli people to interpret Arabic and Farsi. If they would have done that, I believe 9/11 would not have happened.
Well, in fact, the FBI was aware of the presence of some of the 9/11 terrorists in the United States before 9/11 happened. But the FBI has a legacy of failure. The FBI has been a disaster, particularly in recent years. We had this creep attack Salman Rushdie the other day. They managed to stop that. You know, for a group of people with such an amazing sense of self-worth, the FBI is remarkably unaccomplished. I think the only thing to do it is defund it, disband it, and put its proper functions out in other agencies. What do you think?
I agree with you 100%. Disband the FBI, ban on a permanent list any FBI agents from ever working in law enforcement.
Oh, I love hearing that.
You remember the incident at the synagogue in Texas?
Yes.
Where
Garland, Texas?
Where Hurt took credit, and in reality it was the rabbi with the chair that hit the terrorist. Well, when
you say Hurt, it's HRT, Hostage Rescue Team. Their elite SWAT unit, the same one that shot Randy Weaver's wife.
Yes. When they went in...
While holding a baby. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yes, of course. They shot and killed the terrorist. You know how we would have handled that in Israel? We would have gone in and captured them alive so we could get intel. But no, they wanted to...
Well, look, I mean, if they're going to kill terrorists, that's okay with me. But look, the FBI has this track record of failure. And now it's essentially become the personal Stasi for the Democrat power structure. And, you've been involved in American law enforcement, too. You've no doubt been in trials. How do you think it's going to go nowadays? I mean, look at this. The reaction, the board, it's the 3 a.m. hour, and the board is full of calls of people angry. When a U.S. attorney stands up and says, well, in this drug dealer case, we've got, we'll have FBI agents testify. Do any of you jurors have any bias? And somebody says, well, if the cartel guy says X and the FBI guy says Y, I'll believe Z. I mean, it's just terrible.
Yeah, no, I've had dealings as a law enforcement officer in the States with U.S. Marshals. Now with my own company, I just had dealings last week with ATF because we're involved in guns and weapons and stuff. Professional people. The FBI, when I had dealings with them either as an Israeli counterterrorist or as an American law enforcement officer, not one time had I left that with a good feeling. You do know what street cops call the FBI, don't you?
Is it FCC compliant?
Well, we will blank out the first word, but you can guess what it is.
Well, I'm guessing it has to do with BI.
It's blank Bureau of Idiots.
Look, these are. There is an investigative function that is proper for the United States government. It's much smaller. We shouldn't have as many federal laws as we do to enforce in the first place. But I think mixing in with counterintelligence and the surveillance capability that implies basically invites us. But, of course, Herbert Hoover, when he wasn't cross-dressing with Clyde Tolson, pretty much set up the FBI to be exactly what it is, which is the handmaiden of those in power.
How does a cross-dressing homosexual stay in power back in the 50s and 60s? By blackmailing every congressman, senator, and president that there was.
Well, I mean, look, we know they were listening into Martin Luther King. Now, you might not like Martin Luther King's politics. Most Democrats back then didn't. But, the idea that you're compiling a dossier on this guy, this political opponent, how's that? I mean, really, is it that different than what they're doing to Donald Trump? Because they seem to, they're going in with a warrant so broad, any document created between January 2017 and the present. Okay, if you took that warrant to a judge in a normal case, is there any chance the judge would stop? My mom did warrants as a judge and as a DA. It'd be laughed out of her courtroom.
That's why they went to this guy was a buddy of Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, the magistrate who was the Epstein lawyer and who recused himself in a Trump case just a month and a half ago. I mean, and then they're going to be stunned when normal people say, I don't trust the FBI.
I'm going to say if the Republicans take the House and Senate and they don't defund the FBI, then they're not serious, because we're in the middle of a Marxist revolution in the United States, and our side is losing.
Well, you tell it, Yanni. Thank you, Yanni, friend of the show. Always great insights. We've got Joanne in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Joanne, welcome to Hugh Hewitt Radio Program. What do you have to say?
Nice to talk to you, Colonel. What I would like to say is, my question is, why is it 18 months? Why did it take them 18 months to put this warrant on them?
I can tell you, Joanne.
Sensitive information.
I can tell you, Joanne, because it's all a lie and a scam. They tried to frame Trump for Trump Russia. They lied on FISA warrants. They have tried to frame Trump, and they're still trying to do it. That's why. Now, let's pivot there, Joanne, because you're in Scranton, the home of President Krusty. Are you guys going to get out there, and are you going to send Dr. Oz to the Senate?
Of course. We're voting for Oz.
Are you feeling it on the ground out there? Because all the smart people in the mainstream regime media are telling me that Heart Attack Shrek's going to win. What do you say? What do you see?
I see that it's Oz, and we don't like Biden Street. We don't like the Biden Expressway. We all win against it. and they did it anyways.
Well, thank you, Joanne in Pennsylvania. Bill in Tennessee, where I will be later this week when I go and do a guest shot on Mike Huckabee's show. Bill, what do you think of the FBI?
Brother, talk about what Jim Jordan said. He said 14 agents, 14 out of 50,000.
Yeah, that's not a great percentage, huh? Not a lot of good apples there.
They're all complicit. It's not Director Ray. It's not the assistant director. It's not the station chiefs that's serving these warrants. It's the rank and file. Everybody says, "Oh, they're all good people."
Bill,
it's the rank and file people.
Bill, you couldn't be more right. If somebody, I like to think if somebody said, "Yeah, I'd like you to go get our boss's political opponent on this bogus warrant," I like them to say, "Okay, here's my badge, my credentials. Here's my 9mm. I'm not going to do it because I took an oath, and my oath means something." Thank you, Bill. Dan, also in Tennessee. What do you think?
Well, I just think right now the constitutional republic is dead. We're under a tyrannical government. Can someone explain to me, if you could do this to the President of the United States, why would I believe I have any right? Why would I believe someone could come into my house? And why can't we see the affidavit? We can't see the affidavit because it's a cover story. And I'm retired law enforcement. That's a total bunch of BS.
Well, Dan, I understand. Now, you say a constitutional republic is dead. I think it's on a ventilator right now, but I think we can revitalize it. I think we can resurrect it. I think in November we're going to do it. We are going to go in and we're going to kick these bums out. We're going to take the Congress. We're going to take the Senate, and we're going to begin the process of bringing America back. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter. This is the Hugh Hewitt radio program. Stay tuned for David Drucker next.
Hey, it's Hugh Hewitt. Don't go anywhere. Kurt Schlichter sitting in for me. I think he slept on a cot in the studio last night, and he's taken all the books out. All the wiring is gone. He says he can get a pretty good price for it up in L.A., and so that's when I know it. I know the law business is sometimes a little bit slow, but Kurt, please put it back. And we tried to improve the lighting on him. Last time we had raccoon eyes, and the guys at the Salem News Channel told me that wasn't good. That was done by my direction. I try and make Kurt look like Darth Vader coming aboard the starship. But actually, he's a happy guy. He's really a happy guy. People don't believe it. He's been out there talking to you. He gets more donations for Food for the Poor, the refugees in Ukraine. And I was talking to Tom Trott about it last week. And he said, does Kurt like to do Food for the Poor? I said, Kurt loves doing Food for the Poor. He loves asking people for money. It's so different from his soldier persona. But in fact, people who've seen war, who've seen riot, who have served in uniform, know what it is to see people displaced by violence. And they are the ones who respond the best. So I'm glad to have Colonel Kurt in on Monday and Tuesday. And I forgot to tell you about ReliefFactor.com. I don't want you to forget to take it. I took it with me to Wyoming. I take it for a reason. People try and pull tricks on me, even when I'm interviewing future Congress people. Hey, have you got your Relief Factor with you? And I've always got it in my sport coat. And I take it everywhere I go because I don't want to miss a day and I don't want to fall behind. It's been a week since I've been out on the hilly, rolly beach to Beacon 10K. And by Wednesday last week, I was fine again, and I don't know if I'm going to have a chance to run in Wyoming. I don't know. Cattle are out there in the streets. I don't know. But ReliefFactor.com went with me anyway, and it ought to go with you wherever you go. $19.95 is the starter pack. I hector you every day to remember to take it. I'm like also probably other people's reminder alarm clock to take whatever else their daily medication is. But for me, it's ReliefFactor.com, $19.95, the only place you can get it, ReliefFactor.com. And come back for more Kurt Schlichter on the Sitting In, the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by The Wild Adventure. Learn more at twa.us.
We are back on Hugh Hewitt radio program with one of my favorite guests when I am lucky enough to guest host, and I am guest host Kurt Schlichter, David Drucker, Washington Examiner senior political reporter and noted fashion plate. David, you are always the best-dressed guy in the room when I see you around at CPAC and elsewhere. How are you this morning?
I'm great, Kurt. Thank you very much.
David, let's get right into it. I have a full board of calls here. I have seen so much intense and unyielding anger among people at what the FBI did. It's not transitory. It's not superficial. It is deep. It is all-consuming. These people are furious because they believe their Constitution has been betrayed. Do the people inside the Beltway have any conception of just how angry people are in response to this Mar-a-Lago warrant nonsense?
Well, I'm not sure if people. I think the question that people. I think what people inside the Beltway are trying to figure out, and your question is a very valid question. I think what people are trying to figure out is who is angry, where are they, and who's happy, and where are they? And when you put all those together into a voting electorate in the midterm elections, how does that shake out? I am not at all surprised that Republican voters or voters who tend to vote Republican or voters who vote as long as Trump's on the ballot are upset about this. There are also a lot of Democratic voters who are not or who have felt for almost 2 years that Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, has been way too timid in dealing with Trump and other Republican malfeasance as they see it. And so whenever an event like this happens, I like to see how all of this shakes out. Often people inside the Beltway miss all sorts of things. So if they're missing this, if we're missing this, it wouldn't be the first time. But I don't think people are unaware. I just think people are trying to figure out how to put it together in such a combination that they can figure out whether or not it's going to affect the midterm elections and beyond.
Well, David Drucker of the Washington Examiner, I think we're getting some data points. We've seen the Minnesota and Wisconsin primary elections, Republican voters up, Democrats down. In Hawaii, in the primary, a massive increase in Republican voters and a drop in Democrats. Now, the regime media story, the narrative is Joe Biden's back. He's got his aviator glasses. He's gotten 1/12 of what he asked for. That's practically the New Deal. He's back. He's not even falling off his bike anymore as he rides on the beach. And I think that attempting to wish cast a guy with approval on par with monkeypox, I just think it's wishful thinking. What do you think?
Well, I too think that looking at the president's recent string of legislative accomplishments all in a row after several months of nothing, and concluding that the entire midterm election landscape has been turned on its head, is fanciful because it's just not true. I mean, the president's approval ratings are still low. Democrats are still facing headwinds. And one of the reasons why I'm paying close attention to how the fallout from the raid shakes out politically is because Republican turnout in primaries was already up. And Democratic turnout in primaries was already either down or nowhere near as good as Republican. So the Democrats already face an enthusiasm gap. So it's not like they were riding high, and now all of a sudden we've seen this thing turned on its head. Democrats still face headwinds. The president's approval ratings are still low. And, the only thing I can say that we do know is that some of these Republican Senate candidates are not raising the kind of money that they need to raise in the competitive races. And even still, some of them are going to win anyway. So I think your observation is apt. And I don't like to, jump to conclusions. Republicans are, still on track to win the House. And the question is by how much. They're still on track to win it. They're still in a good position to win the Senate, even though that seems a little less clear. But I haven't seen really much change in the midterm election landscape, whether we look at it from the vantage point of Democrats started passing legislation and maybe Democrats feel better about the president. His big problem, of course, is Democrats are unhappy with him, or from the vantage point of the raid. But again, I want to see it shake out, and then I will make a decision when I feel like I have enough information.
Well, David Drucker, Washington Examiner senior political reporter, you're known as a straight shooter. Conservatives trust you. Liberals trust you. You talk to both. We've got about 30 seconds. What are you hearing from the Democrats about what they think is going to happen in November? Not what the narrative is, but what they think is going to happen. And the same question as for Republicans.
Democrats know that they face an uphill climb. They feel a little bit more optimistic right now about avoiding a complete wipeout than they did some weeks back. But you talk to Democrats who understand this thing, and they know they're still in trouble. Republicans, they're still in the same position they were, and that is one where they think they should win.
Oh, thank you, David Drucker of the Washington Examiner. Always great to have you when I guest host on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm Kurt Schlichter. Stick around.
Portions of the following program may contain pre-recorded material.
Morning glory, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. Bonjour, hi, Canada. I'm still not there. It's Tuesday. I'm still in Wyoming, and Kurt Schlichter is back for day 2 of the Schlichter Show. We don't want to really call it that. I don't want him to get any ideas. As it is, he's beginning to leave his clothes in the studio, and that worries me a little bit. There might be a coup someday. I think Generalissimo will be involved in it. But Colonel Kurt's actually got a new book out. You ought to get that. And thank you very much, Kurt, for taking over for me for a couple of days. Take it away.
And thank you, Hugh Hewitt. I am Kurt Schlichter. I'm the author of that book right back there behind me. You can see me on Salem Now. We'll be back. The Fall and Rise of America. I'm senior columnist at townhall.com. Retired United States Army Colonel, noted Los Angeles trial lawyer, and honored to being joined by a veteran of the United States Navy, and currently the senator, or a senator, from the great state of Florida, the free state of Florida, which I recently visited, Senator Rick Scott. Good morning, Senator Scott. Welcome to Hugh Hewitt program.
Kurt, it's great to be with you. I hope you enjoyed your visit to Florida. It is a little hot right now, so October, November, December might have been a little bit better. Oh,
no, I love humidity. It's very good for my skin. So, in any case...
hair curly.
Senator Scott, our people on the Hugh Hewitt radio program are very in the weeds about the mechanics of winning. As the head of the NRSC, you are in charge of making sure we take back the Senate. Our people are concerned because the regime narrative is that we're in trouble in Georgia with Herschel Walker, that we're in trouble in Pennsylvania with Dr. Oz. What's the NRSC doing to ensure that we win those crucial Senate seats?
Well, Kurt, here's where we are. We have great candidates. We've got wonderful individuals that have gotten through their primaries. They're clearly focused on running good races and representing their state. If you look all over the country, especially all these states where we have competitive races, Biden's numbers are horrible. The Democratic agenda is not well received. It's shocking. People don't like high inflation. They don't like to defund the police. They don't like critical race theory. They don't like the fact that there was a raid on a former president's house, a potential opponent in 24 to the existing administration. So what we've got to do is, as long as we raise our money and we get our message out, I think we have every reason to believe that we can get a majority. Ron Johnson's got a tough race, but he's doing a great job. Mehmet Oz has a tough race. He's working hard. Ted Budd in North Carolina is working hard. Herschel Walker. Here's why I believe Herschel Walker is going to win. People like Herschel Walker. Herschel is well thought of in the state of Georgia. He's working really hard. I think, Warnock has already spent something like $20 million, and the race is basically tied. Herschel just has his first ad up, so he's running a good race. He's got a good team. As long as he continues to raise his money, then I think he's going to have a big win. I think we have a great chance of winning in Nevada, in Arizona, in New Hampshire. We've got great candidates, a little harder states, in Colorado, in the state of Washington. So great candidates, great environment. Biden's numbers are not getting better. We just got to raise our money.
Well, Senator Scott, about money, and money's important, but my thought is there is a difference between matching your opponent, and the Democrats appear to be outraising this right now, and having enough money. That is, you either have enough or you don't, and money. Is money going to make John Fetterman any healthier or any less socialist? And I just don't think so. What are your thoughts about the fundraising game?
Kurt. Well, first off, anybody wants to help, you can text WIN to 55404, WIN 55404. I agree with you, Kurt. All it is as long as we can define ourselves and our opponents and explain who they are. So as long as Mehmet Oz has the money to explain that Fetterman is a socialist. I mean, he is Bernie Sanders or worse. He's never done anything. He wants to let criminals out of prison. He wants Medicare for all, which is going to ruin the Medicare program for anybody relying on the Medicare program. I mean, he has no idea that normal people, in my opinion, would say, "Oh man, I'm excited that Fetterman would be my senator." Mehmet Oz is a hard worker, cares about this country, smart doctor. He'll be a great U.S. senator. And so as long as he has, you're right, enough money to get his message out, who he is, and who Fetterman is, he'll win.
Dr. Oz is he's a rich guy. If he does not raise enough money, are you going to call Dr. Oz and say, hey, write yourself a check? You got in this. I expect you to do what it takes to win.
Well, we're going to invest, and we've already invested. But I know he's investing. I'm not sure the exact number, but it was a significant number he invested in his primary. He's invested in his general election. He is committed to winning. I was with him this weekend. He is a hard worker, committed to winning, and he will invest. We're going to invest. I hope everybody that cares about that race either help the NRSC or help Dr. Oz with the resources to be able to get his message out. But I agree with you, Kurt. We've got to raise enough to explain who these people are. Fetterman, first off, lied about his health. Wasn't even on the campaign trail for months. I'm sorry that he has health problems, but he lied about it. And that right there should be a disqualifying factor. But the worst thing is, he's going to be worse than Bernie Sanders. If you like Bernie Sanders, then he's your guy. But I don't think that's where Pennsylvania is.
Senator Rick Scott, before I get to the question of the FBI, which is burning up the call screen, people are very, very angry about this. I want to get your over and under. It looks to me like the Republicans could end up from anywhere from 48 to in a great year 56. I think the over and under is 52.5 for the Senate in January of 2023. What do you think?
As long as we raise our money, we're going to get a majority. I don't know if that'll be 51, 52, 53. You're right. We have great candidates. So if we have our money, we have a shot to pick up 6 states. But it all comes down to enough money to get our message out. That's why I tell everybody, help these candidates. Or if you want to help us, it's text 55404, text WIN to 55404, because if we have the resources, I think this is going to be a great year. People are mad. They're mad about inflation. They're mad about Afghanistan. They're mad about the border. They're mad about defunding the police. They're mad about this raid on Mar-a-Lago. So I think Republicans are going to show up and vote.
Senator Rick Scott, you mentioned the FBI raid, and I got to tell you, I've been in conservatism for going on 40 years. I don't think I've ever seen people as angry. At 3 a.m., my phone lines are lighting up with people furious about this outrageous misconduct by the FBI. But they're concerned. They're concerned that some of your colleagues don't get just how bad that this is, that they can go back to something like business as usual. Do your colleagues get the anger out here in America as opposed to inside the Beltway?
I think so. I agree with you. This is really, really concerning to raid a prior president and a potential opponent in 24 by an administration that's known for going after parents and other political opponents. This is what they do. This is third world stuff, right? So I think Attorney General Garland and Director Wray, they have got. This is a significant issue. They've got to be transparent. They got to tell people exactly why they did it, what information they have, what were they going after, how is this a violation of the law? I think we need to have hearings on this. I've asked for a hearing along at Homeland Security. I've asked for way more transparent. I don't care if they want to give it to me in a classified setting. I want to know that this was not just a political vendetta against their prior president.
But Senator Scott, it is just a political vendetta against a prior president. They tried to frame him on the Russia collusion scandal.
Oh, I know.
Why should any American give the FBI and the Justice Department under Biden and Garland any benefit of the doubt after 6 years of absolute misconduct? Let me ask you, are people if we take the Senate majority, are the Republicans prepared to use the power of the purse to force reform or more upon the DOJ and FBI?
Well, Kurt, I think we should always fund our law enforcement, but we have to hold them accountable. I think the real key here is accountability. So, we've got to hold, the FBI. All federal law enforcement agencies. We have to hold them accountable. We have to fund them. We have to hold them accountable. I think we can, and I think we will. I'm on the Homeland Security Committee. I'm committed to doing it. I know there's other individuals, Republicans on there that are committed. I'm disappointed that Democrats don't care about. I mean, the Democrats want to defund the police, and they don't care that there was a raid that no one has been able to explain on a prior president. What happens when when Republicans are power? Is it going to be okay if we do an investigation? So we need to be transparent. They've lost public trust.
Thank you, Senator Rick Scott from the great state of Florida, the free state of Florida. I am guest host Kurt Schlichter. This is the Hugh Hewitt radio program. Stick around.
The Hugh Hewitt Show is now available on TV. Go to salemnewschannel.com or download the app. You can also watch on Roku and Fire Stick. Salem News Channel, the antidote to the mainstream media.
We're back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. And as AC/DC says, we got to get paid. 800-520-1234. The phone number to talk about the FBI or the Senate races. 800-520-1234. I want to hear from folks in Georgia. I want to hear from folks in Pennsylvania. I want to hear from folks in Nevada and Arizona about your Senate candidates. I want to hear from all across the fruited plain about this garbage FBI raid. 800-520-1234, the Hugh Hewitt radio program. Food for the poor. Let me take a moment to thank everyone who's donated so far in Hugh's Summertime Food for the Poor campaign. Look, with inflation still raging, gas prices dropping. Wait a minute. This copy is wrong. I paid, gosh, no, I don't know how much for gas yesterday. The pressures everyone feels at the grocery checkout line, it just means the world to me that so many of you have been so generous to help kids halfway around the world whom you've never met. But the need's real. It's urgent. As we hear in this report from a refugee camp in Ukraine from ABC News.
So roughly more than 2 million children have been displaced because of the war that is happening in Ukraine. There is a very conscious effort from all of the organizations that are working on this project to make sure that they make it as easy as possible for the families. But they are very concerned about what this will look like weeks, months down the road when obviously aid starts to wane a bit.
And that's where you come in. Right now, please go to HughHewitt.com, make a tax-deductible donation by clicking on the big Send Food banner on the website. Your one-time gift in any amount will bless a hungry child at HughHewitt.com. Or if you prefer, you can call with your gift. 855-359-4673. That's 855-359-HOPE to help our friends at the Christian nonprofit organization Food for the Poor. Which one's crazier? I want to do a compare and contrast in craziness. Cut number 2, Ron Brownstein on CNN.
Again, if you think about what's happening in the Republican Party, this very much fits the pattern that we've seen in examples of this abroad, where any kind of unearthing of misconduct or illegal behavior by the leader is immediately translated by the party into an attack on its voters. This is an argument that Trump has made all the way through, because he has argued that he is the human wall against all of the changes, cultural, demographic, social, and American life that the vast majority of his voters fear and dislike, and that anytime any questions are raised about him, what it's really about is silencing them. And that, at the moment, is the dominant strain. That's the dominant faction in the Republican Party. So we're going to see what happens if Liz Cheney loses tomorrow night, as expected. Does she go forward into the 2024 Republican presidential primary, trying to rally the roughly 1/5 to 1/4 of Republican voters who polls consistently show are not on board with the Trump vision and the Trump assault on democracy? And what does that mean? Is there a path forward? Clearly, right now, the Trump critics are losing almost all of these key races in Michigan, Arizona, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, et cetera. The question is, can they be organized into a force that exerts any influence in the party? Because everything right now is pointing in the other direction towards continued transformation to something much more like what we have seen in places like Turkey or Italy, where the party is simply an extension of the will of the strongman.
Okay, Ron Brownstein on strongman politics. Okay, that's crazy option number 1. Crazy option number 2, Nancy Pelosi's birthday party.
And so now we're going to cut the cake. We're going to cut the cake so that we can celebrate this birthday, as well as to say that we are, as we cut the cake and celebrate the birthday, we're going to make sure that the Republicans keep their hands off our Social Security. Yes.
Which one's crazier? I'm in a quandary. 800-520-1234. That's 800-520-1234 here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. Guest host Kurt Schlichter. I don't know which one of those is crazier. America's turning into a turkey-like dictatorship, or happy birthday, the Republicans are stealing your Social Security, and don't drive with my husband. Drive with Ted Kennedy instead. It's probably safer. This is the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter. 800-520-1234. Your calls coming up next. Stick around.
Don't forget to sign up in the Hughiverse for more Hugh, more Dwayne, that's me, the After Show, and more. www.hughiverse.com.
And we're fighting the power here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter, senior columnist, townhall.com, author of the new book, We'll Be Back, The Fall and Rise of America. If you're watching on Salem Now, and you should be watching on Salem Now, you will see it. I'm a noted Los Angeles trial lawyer. I am a retired United States Army colonel. We are commemorating the 1-year anniversary of the disgraceful abandonment of Afghanistan, the helicopters on the roof of the embassy, people falling from airplanes. But, the regime's got a new message. It's momentum. Look, President Krusty's out there with his aviator glasses. He's riding his bike on the beach and not exactly falling over, at least not on camera. Yeah, he's back. He's going to win. There's no red wave. Why? The Democrats are going to take back the House or keep the House. Oh, yeah, somebody's drinking the Kool-Aid. You know who never drinks the Kool-Aid is a perpetual guest here, the ombudsman of the Hugh Hewitt radio program, Detective Tom. Detective Tom, welcome to the Hugh Hewitt radio program.
Good morning. This is my first call to you, actually. How are you, sir?
I am fine. I've heard you many times on Hugh Hewitt because I listen every day, usually as I'm out exercising because I want to keep in peak shape. Now, I know that you are a detective. My mother was a deputy district attorney in San Mateo County and a judge in San Mateo County. And if a bunch of cops had come into our house on the kitchen table and said, I want you to sign this warrant that allows you to take any document created since 2017 and a document near it. Yeah, that would have gone poorly. How about you?
That's where I was going, the general warrant. I want to go ahead and write one. I've always wanted to wonder what it would be like to write a warrant for a search warrant, an affidavit saying, I want to search everything, everywhere, any place.
For any reason.
Right, and have the judge sign off on it, and then I get to go ahead and rifle through everything and decide what's legal and what's not. Oh, my gosh.
Well,
listen.
It's pretty staggering. Look, you've obviously worked with the FBI in the past. What is your opinion of this storied agency?
For the first 15 years, fine. Let me amend that. I don't have any animus towards the FBI here in Oakland or San Francisco. I don't. We don't handle enough of, high political value cases for them to go ahead and I'm sorry, but taint their investigation. But I've come to the conclusion. I came to it 2 years ago with the James Comey and the false documentation of the Pfizer warrants, and then during the Mueller trial, when they subpoenaed the phones from Mueller for a page and Strzok, they got the phones back and they were wiped. This is and I'm pretty serious now saying this. The Federal Bureau of Investigation should be looked at with RICO predicates in mind: racketeering, influence, corrupt organization. I'm sorry, I cannot go ahead and trust anything that comes out of the Washington Bureau, in particular. They have picked a side. They decided that they weren't going to go ahead and looking into any of the Obama irregularities, whether there were or not. The Lois Lerner aside, but they did decide to go ahead and get involved in anything and everything with Trump. So that means they have picked a side politically. Therefore, ergo ipso facto, disband them. So I didn't think I'd ever go ahead and say that. They are a tainted, corrupt organization. All of you back east, especially you in Washington, I'm telling you, American citizens, the Federal Bureau of Investigation is not much different than the Colombo crime family. They're not.
Well, look, there are some practical problems here. You no doubt have testified in many criminal cases, and I can see a United States attorney getting up to a panel of potential jurors and asking, do any of you have, FBI guys are going to be testifying in this, cartel case. Do you have any biases against the FBI? And a bunch of hands are going to go up going, I think they're a bunch of corrupt handmaidens of the Democrat establishment.
The taint goes across all the spectrums of the agents. That's the way this works.
That's the way taints work.
That's exactly. And until they are disbanded, or I don't care if you give it to the U.S. Marshals or another organization, the FBI in this iteration has served its purpose, its ignominy, and it's now been tagged infamously. Look, Ray, the current director, is not. He's He is the problem. You know what I would imagine if you probably looked into all this escapade at Mar-a-Lago, how many people's hands from the failed attempt with oh shoot, why is it escaping me? The failed attempt to go ahead and impeach Trump. How many of those people touched or came across this document to go ahead and raid Mar-a-Lago? I bet there's still somebody on the 7th floor that had something to do with this. So look, at the Justice Department. The Justice Department is calling the shots. They're telling the FBI to go ahead and do it, and the FBI is just saying, yes sir, no ma'am, whatever it is. They've lost their integrity. It's over.
Well, look,
they're not going to get it back.
They took an oath. And if somebody, look, I like to think if somebody handed me this warrant and said, you and the rest of you, get your AR-15s and your, body armor, because you need protection when you're rifling through Melania's undies, and go execute this search warrant. I like to think I'd look at it and say, here's my creds. Here's my 9. You can have my rifle, too. I'm not doing it because I take the oath I took seriously. It's a Constitution. It's not to that senile old freak in the White House. Serve it yourself.
When you lie about big things, and the FBI did, McCabe, all those guys, it means you're going to lie about every other little thing.
The jury instruction read to every civil and criminal jury. If he is dishonest in one thing, you are free to assume he'll be dishonest in everything. And
there you go.
The FBI suborned perjury. In fact, one of its guys was convicted of committing perjury. You had other people fired for it. You had other people, texting each other about we're not going to let him be president as they were cheating on their wives. I mean, if your wife can't trust you around Lisa Page, I don't think I could trust you around Americans' freedom. I think this is a tainted organization. I think it's been tainted since Herbert Hoover created an organization that combines counterintelligence activity with basic law enforcement. And that is an invitation to exactly what this is, which is a disaster.
I don't know. They were going, when they were just James Kallstrom days, and they were going after the mob, stuff like that, they may have been above board, but not anymore. They've gone political. It's over. You can't unring the bell. The bell has been rung. So we'd like to thank the FBI for their participation. Congratulations, fellas! You've ruined your reputation.
Well,
I'm not anti-FBI at all. I can't.
Well, look, there are consequences to your choices. When you have, for instance, Boston, a completely compromised FBI field office, where one of their guys got sent away for murder, for helping Whitey Bulger kill a guy. Oh, and then they couldn't catch him for 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. What do you think Efren Zimbalist? If you could harness the energy generated by Efren Zimbalist Jr.'s body spinning in its grave, that would be enough green energy to fuel the United States of America. Is there any hope for the FBI, Detective Tom?
No, not in our lifetime. There's not. It's the jury admonition that you just went ahead and gave. I'm a member of the FBI. Everyone's going to sit there and go, "Oh, really? Why do I go ahead and what do you voir dire? We're going to go ahead and believe you now?" I don't know.
Well, exactly, and it goes on a little further because we a lot of Republicans are very sensitive because we have correctly opposed this defund the police thing, and they think that somehow we can't demand reform at the FBI because we're supporting law enforcement. I'll tell you, this is what the FBI is doing is not law enforcement. It is a political vendetta. It is very different than cops maybe being a little too rough with some scumbag criminal. This is something entirely different. You can distinguish things that are not alike. Republicans, it's okay.
Yeah, look, the question isn't whether or not you're pro law enforcement or not. It's whether you're pro corruption or not. Look, they've become the Praetorian Guard. That's
exactly.
They have been corrupted in that.
Let's wait a couple elections from now. Maybe they're going to auction off the White House to the highest bidder.
Well, okay. Well, then that That's the Secret Service better watch the back.
Hey, maybe we'll have President Elon Musk. Anyway, thank you, Detective Tom. I always appreciate it. I'd like to go to Craig. Craig, where are you calling from? Oh, number one. I'm sorry, we have multiple Craigs.
And so now we're going to cut
Yes, sir.
Craig in Ohio. How are you doing,
Yes, sir.
Craig? What do you think of the FBI? Real quick.
Real quick, I think the problem is they're enablers. And the problem with that is it starts back to the teachers. You can purge the FBI, you can defund all the alphabets, but to work in the alphabet, you got to have a degree. So where do you think they're recruiting? You're not going to catch a bass when you're fishing for carp. And I believe we know some of the same people, sir. It's an honor to talk to you.
Well, thank you, Craig. And Craig in Tennessee on line 3. How do you feel?
Hi, Kurt. Yeah, the DOJ told us last year who they were, and now the FBI has proven it. But we have a darker entity on the rise up here. And Marsha Blackburn did a 9-county tour last week asking the citizens what you thought of this 87,000 prepare to shoot to kill squad that's coming up. And almost
You're talking about the IRS guys, and there was that advertisement, and I'm not sure exactly what it applied to, but mentioned that you needed to be able to carry a weapon. It seemed very odd to me. I'm not sure exactly how that works. But we only have a couple seconds. What do you think we ought to do with the FBI?
Oh, it's time to abolish them. They've already shown who they are. It's over.
Thank you, Craig. This is Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. You hear what the people say. The people are angry, and they have every right to be, because this is a betrayal of our Constitution. This is Kurt Schlichter. Be right back.
Hey, it's Hugh Hewitt. Don't go anywhere. Birch Gold, of course, is still a sponsor of the Hugh Hewitt Show, even when I'm off working by interviewing would-be members of Congress who are on the Republican side. Newbies, I call them. I'm out doing a roundup of newbies in Wyoming. But Birch Gold is working away every single day. Go to hughgold.com or text my name, Hugh, to 989898. That's hughgold.com. That connects you up with Birch Gold. That's who I buy my gold from. I can't give you the spot price of gold this morning because I'm not there. Kurt might be able to do that for you. But you can get everything that Birch Gold offers, all their services in a free information pack if you simply text Hugh, H-U-G-H, to 989898. Or go to hughgold.com. Birch Gold, that's who I buy my gold from. That's who you should as well. ReliefFactor.com. You're listening to Kurt Schlichter, but I want to let you know, even though I'm not there, I am up in the Cowboy State, and I'm taking my Relief Factor every single day. $19.95 gets you started on ReliefFactor.com. I talk about it 3 times in my daily show. At the bottom of the first hour when I take it, and then in hours 2 and 3 when I remind you to take it, depending on when your commute begins, because ReliefFactor.com works. It's the only supplement I've taken in 30 years of broadcasting. I've declined every other opportunity to take a supplement, and I'll tell you why. Because ReliefFactor.com actually works. I carry in curcumin, resveratrol, omega. Temporary relief for the relief of minor aches and pains. Temporary support for the relief of minor aches and pains. And you can't do better than that 3-week starter pack, $19.95. Relief Factor works. You should take it every single morning like I do, and I'm here to tell you, it always works for me. I get on these airplanes, and boy, when you go from the northeast corner of the United States to the Canadian border near the west, it's actually not on the Canadian border, right? Montana's above us. I don't really know the map of the United States. I take my Relief Factor wherever I go because it works. It helps ease the troubles of traveling. It helps ease the pain of running. It helps do everything that goes with aging, and you should give it a try. Relief.
We're back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program, and that Hugh Hewitt radio program has sent you lawyers, guns, and money in the form of me, Kurt Schlichter, noted Los Angeles trial lawyer, retired United States Army colonel, senior columnist at Town Hall, author of that book behind me. Wrong side. We'll be back. The Fall and Rise of America. One of the great pleasures I have when I guest host for Hugh Hewitt is having one of my favorite commentators on, Byron York, Washington Examiner chief political consultant. Byron, welcome to the Hugh Hewitt radio program.
Chief political correspondent, not consultant.
Oh, did I say consultant?
You said consultant.
Oh my gosh. I just say that is a deep insult because, well, consultants are garbage, and we're going to get to them in a minute. But I want to ask you, Byron York, chief political correspondent, I want to ask you, do the people in Washington, D.C., inside the Beltway, understand the seething cauldron of anger that exists over this raid? I've been in conservatism 40 years. I have never seen anything like it. It is deep, it is enduring, and it is heartfelt. People are furious about this raid.
The short answer is no. I don't think they do, because I think they see it like they saw the Trump-Russia investigation. These are some Democrats. We're talking about some in the media, some in law enforcement and intelligence. They never really accepted the idea that there really wasn't Trump-Russia collusion, even though they had a big, long, independent special counsel investigation, which couldn't establish that it even happened. But I think we're really in kind of a replay, and it's a really bad thing, of the Trump-Russia affair from 2016, 17, 18, and 19. And all the sides and some of the players are exactly the same, and there's just this belief, certainly in media circles, that Trump must be guilty, just as there was a belief in 2017, 18, 19 that Trump must be guilty, and it's going from there.
Well, particularly among Republicans, Byron York, I have noted a number of them who don't know what time it is. They're saying things like, well, we need to see all the facts. No, we don't. They tried to frame Trump before. They're trying to do it again. And the people, the Republican base, which is now highly energized, this is our Dobbs, are not going to tolerate we got to sit back and we need to trust the FBI. They want the FBI disbanded. They don't want it reformed. They don't want, generic accountability. They want it gone and its functions parceled out to other places. I am very concerned that our folks in Washington do not understand how angry the base is. And if they don't deliver for the base, there's going to be trouble.
Yeah, and what we have is the situation that we had in those earlier years, in which the absence of facts allows crazy speculation to just flourish. All you have to do is, watch Morning Joe or watch CNN or something. You'll see this incredible speculation going on. And what you're saying about the Republican base is that they look at the Mar-a-Lago raid, and it fits into a pattern that they saw from 2016 to 2019 about Trump-Russia. Remember the Nunes memo? That was something that exposed the fact that the FBI had used the Steele dossier, which is a complete fabrication, had used it to actually spy on the Trump campaign. And the people who were fighting declassification of the information in the Nunes memo are the same people who are accusing Trump of stealing classified information today. This is a really depressing replay of what happened then, and I think that what you're saying about the Republican base is that they've seen this movie before, and they just don't want to see it again.
Yeah, Byron York, I just don't imagine that the Republican base is going to tolerate a Republican Party that says, well, we're going to need to have another investigation, and let's see how all the facts come out. No, we already know the facts. This is a fraud. My gosh, my mother was a judge and a district attorney. If a law enforcement agency had brought a warrant like that to my mother, oh boy, that would have gone poorly, and yet it's signed off by a federal magistrate. It's a travesty. Everyone in the base knows it. Boy, if the Republicans in Congress don't get it, they're going to feel the pain.
Yeah, I was just looking at the headline in this morning's Wall Street Journal. Merrick Garland, Wade search of Trump's Mar-a-Lago for weeks. And you think to yourself, how urgent could it have been?
What a disgrace.
If Merrick Garland, does this deliberation act for weeks before deciding to do it, is there dangerous classified material that would put lives and sources and methods at risk sitting down there in the open, right
in her
next
undies drawer?
Right next to the beach chairs at Mar-a-Lago, and it has to be seized?
Byron York, Washington Examiner chief political correspondent. I could go all hour with you, and unfortunately we can't do that, but I'm looking forward to seeing you next time I guest host for the great Hugh Hewitt. I'm Kurt Schlichter. Stick around. We got a lot more to come.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you by Food for the Poor.
Portions of the following program may contain pre-recorded material.
Morning glory, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. Bonjour, hi, Canada. I'm still not there. It's Tuesday. I'm still in Wyoming, and Kurt Schlichter is back for day 2 of the Schlichter Show. We don't want to really call it that. I don't want him to get any ideas. As it is, he's beginning to leave his clothes in the studio, and that worries me a little bit. There might be a coup someday. I think Generalissimo will be involved in it. But Colonel Kurt's actually got a new book out. You ought to get that. And thank you very much, Kurt, for taking over for me for a couple of days. Take it away.
Thank you, Hugh Hewitt. This is Kurt Schlichter. And, of course, Hugh's just kidding. I'm not leaving my clothes here. Of course, I don't even bring pants to the studio. Go commando. I am a senior columnist at townhall.com. The author of the new book will be back, The Fall and Rise of America. You can see it behind me if you're watching Salem now, which you should be. I am also a noted Los Angeles trial lawyer and a retired Army colonel, and I am very, very excited to have with us former Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker on the phone. And I saw you this weekend at an Adam Laxalt event in Nevada. Did you eat the delicacy, General Whitaker?
Yes, and I have the lapel button to prove it.
Now, of course, the delicacy is, how do I put it? It was a Basque cultural celebration, and the Basques fry up, how do I put it politely, the testicles of sheep. So
yeah, but first they're smashed and then deep fried. So
well, as long as they're smashed and fried. Let's say, it's like when I went to airborne school. I jumped out of the plane 5 times. I got my badge. I'm done. General Whittaker, let's get a little serious now. I took a look at the warrant that the FBI had a magistrate judge sign. My mother was a district attorney while I was growing up. She was a deputy district attorney. She was a judge in San Mateo, California. She did myriad warrants, including those on our kitchen table. And if one had come before her that said every document created since 2017 and any document nearby those documents could be swooped up, they would have been laughed out of Mom's kitchen. What's your take on this?
Well, the whole situation, Kurt, is very troubling in many ways. And I think, we can go so many different directions from the approval process of the Department of Justice all the way to, the judge's review and signing of the search warrant. But to your point, the breadth of this search and the ability for the FBI to go into the former president's house, scoop up everything, and then, I guess, review it in hopes of finding something that supports their theory of a criminal case should chill every American. And the fact that the left is silent when it's to their benefit politically tells you everything about the modern left. The left is corrupt. They don't stand for the rule of law. They stand for the rule of power. And it is detrimental, not only, you've seen it in California already, but, that version of, woke liberalism is, on the march and ascendant. And I know, I plugged your new book, obviously, the fall and rise of our great republic. And that's not the title, but it really, we have to find people and find public servants that are honest brokers that will call out abuses by the FBI, will call out, quite frankly, abuses by politicians. But we're not there. There's no honest left.
Well, former Attorney General Matt Whitaker, I'm very concerned. I know that Jim Jordan from the House of Representatives has said there are 14 whistleblowers have come forward from the FBI, but the FBI's got 40,000 members. The fact is, I don't see the good apples. I see them going ahead and participating in some that is manifestly improper and unconstitutional. If you ask the base, and I have been asking the base today, what do we do with the FBI? The answer is defund and disband it. That's the answer. Hardcore conservative, law and order backing GOP-based voters are coming up with. They believe it is absolutely irredeemable. And I think that's just a very bad place for it to be.
It is. It is. It needs to be above reproach, and obviously they have really, since Jim Comey was the director, they have not been above reproach. I mean, although we can go back to sort of previous iconic FBI directors and see where they have lost their way from time to time as well. And I think we need to use the language of the left as it relates to the FBI, and we need to reimagine the FBI. And it's going to take some brave souls, because there are, in addition to having FBI agents, out in the country, out in the field, as they say, there's also FBI agents that every day are paid to lobby the Congress. There's probably 30 FBI agents that go up on a regular basis and establish relationships with members of Congress. And it is going to be very difficult, and there has to be some very brave representatives and senators that are willing to take on this charge and like I said, reimagine the FBI. If it's going to be the premier law enforcement agency in the United States, then they need to live up to that standard. And right now, when you have them putting their thumb on the scale of politically charged investigations, that's again, it's not sustainable, and it's going to do detrimental harm to our country.
Well, former Attorney General Whittaker, I think one of the basic problems is the actual design of the FBI, because it combines federal law enforcement, bank robbers, mobsters, white-collar criminals, with counterintelligence. And in many other countries, Israel, those are separated. You have the law enforcement in Shin Bet. In England, you have Scotland Yard to do the criminal part. You have MI5 to do counterterrorism, counterintelligence. By having those two together, I think it creates an almost irresistible current towards abuse and interference in the political system. What's your take on that? Could the FBI be divided up? Could its functions be divided up? Might that be a solution?
I think that I don't know if it's a solution. Here's my challenge with that, and I agree that those other countries have looked at the similar missions and don't have them combined. What I know about bureaucracies in the United States of America is if it's like a hydra, right? You cut off one head and you divide it into two, and all of a sudden both of those claiming, that they need to expand their mission and they need more money and resources, and pretty soon, that the separated are bigger than the combined was. And so it would have to have some real guardrails about the size and growth and scope. And don't forget, this is what I think a lot of people forget, is we have a lot of federal law enforcement out running around, and whether it was in, the drug enforcement arena or, quite frankly, just criminal investigations. The Homeland Security, HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, sort of is claiming, running around the country, and many times saying that they're the new FBI, and they have overlapping authorities with the FBI, and in reimagining federal law enforcement and making it work for the American people and not for their own interests, I think we'd have to bring in some, look at how HSI and how DHS and how, quite frankly, all of the federal law enforcement is structured and given authorities to investigate crimes and to do the other important work on behalf of the American people.
Well, Attorney General Whittaker, I believe there's going to be a Republican administration in 2024, and I believe any president, whether it's Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis or someone else who's not Nikki Haley, comes in, I think you would be right at the top of the list for Attorney General. If you were nominated and confirmed, what immediate actions would you take? And we only have about 30 seconds.
Kurt, that is an enormous hypothetical question, and I don't know if 30 seconds does it. Plus, I don't want this played at my confirmation hearing. So that being said,
okay, let me pivot
really
then.
Enjoyed being with you today.
Let me pivot then. Do you have any interest in running for the Senate in your home state of Iowa? Should a seat become open?
You're good at this job. You know, I love my home state of Iowa. I'm there all the time, hanging out. I was at the fair, I was at the Field of Dreams game just last week.
Oh, you're already a politician. Thank you, Attorney General Matt Whitaker. This is Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. We'll be right back. We're back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter, author of We'll Be Back. Wait a minute, got to get the right thumb here if you're watching on video. We'll Be Back, The Fall and Rise of America. I'm senior columnist, townhall.com, retired Army colonel, noted trial lawyer, and philanthropist. I demand that you guys participate in a little bit of philanthropy, but seriously, we've got to help. Food for the poor. Allow me a quick moment to thank everyone who's donated so far in Hugh Hewitt's Summertime Food for the Poor campaign. Look, with inflation still raging, gas prices dropping a bit but still too high, pressures everyone feel at the grocery store checkout, it means the world to us that so many of you have been so generous to help kids halfway around the world whom you will never meet. But the need is real. It's urgent, as we hear in this report from a refugee camp in Ukraine from ABC News.
So roughly more than 2 million children have been displaced because of the war that is happening in Ukraine. There is a very conscious effort from all of the organizations that are working on this project to make sure that they make it as easy as possible for the families. But they are very concerned about what this will look like weeks, months down the road when obviously aid starts to wane a bit.
And that's where you come in. Right now, please go to HughHewitt.com, make a tax-deductible donation by clicking on the big Send Food banner on Hugh's website. Your one-time gift in any amount will bless a hungry child at HughHewitt.com. If you prefer, you can also call with your gift. That's 855-359-4673. That's 855-359-HOPE to help our friends at the Christian nonprofit relief organization Food for the Poor. Okay, this, today we talked a lot about the FBI, and we've talked about its attack on the fundamental foundations of America. This raid is serious, and people are very, very angry. And I'll tell you what doesn't help. What doesn't help is people like Neil Katyal, who damn well ought to know better, on MSNBC News. Cut number 6.
I think it's real important for our viewers to just understand just how big this news is, because it's never happened before, to my knowledge, that the home of a former president has been criminally searched. And in my mind, and I'm interested in Andrew's view, I think it makes it likely that the former president is the target of a criminal investigation by the Justice Department. And there's all sorts of legalese that's floating around, subpoenas, probable cause, this and that. But I think the best way to think about it is just in very practical terms. Just imagine it's your house or my house, and the FBI shows up and armed and demands to come in, and they don't take no for an answer, and they have a signed document by a federal judge, and they go so far as to break into your safe. At that point, things are not going well for you. And it's not because, you are, like a, bad person or something like that. They have convinced a federal judge that it is probable cause to believe a crime has been committed, that there are documents in your house that are related to that crime, and that an ordinary request, like a subpoena or something like that, isn't enough, as Andrew was saying. They needed to actually go in and grab the documents right then. A polite request wasn't good enough. If I were like Donald Trump's lawyer right now, and thank God I'm not, I would be advising my client to be telling my family, I am looking at jail time and we should, make plans accordingly.
Okay, it's hard for me to express just the depths of stupidity and dangerousness that idiotic statement embodies. The idea, first of all, the idea that we're somehow supposed to defer because a federal magistrate, he's not a federal judge, former Epstein lawyer, a guy who literally recused himself in a Trump-involved case in June, signed a warrant that would have been laughed off my mom, who was also a judge, off her kitchen table as overbroad and ridiculous. The idea we're supposed to defer to that and believe that this is somehow anything other but yet another attempt to frame the president. I use the word frame advisedly, people. A guy at the FBI was convicted of committing perjury in order to frame the president and those around him. It's not crazy talk. It's not conspiracy. There's no tinfoil hats. This is baloney. This is hard to keep FCC compliant about, but we're going to try and do it. I'm Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. Stick around. We have JD Vance from Ohio coming up.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show brought to you by Sierra Pacific Mortgage. For more info, call 888-888-1172.
We're back on a Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm retired Colonel Kurt Schlichter, sitting in for the great Hugh Hewitt. I am a son of Ohio, and I'm proud to be joined by yet another son of Ohio, hopefully our next senator from the Buckeye State, and a former Marine himself, JD Vance. JD, how are you today?
I'm great, Kurt. Thank you for playing the Marine Corps hymn for me. I appreciate it.
Well, look, it's always nice to honor the supporting service of the decisive American military force, the United States Army. But on a serious note, can you tell me what service your opponent Tim Ryan served in?
Well, he served in the career politician service, where you get paid a lot of money for doing absolutely nothing.
Well, he has done something. He just hired 87,000 new IRS bureaucrats to harry and harass small business people and working folks in the state of Ohio. How's that going over there?
That's true, and also raising taxes by $20 billion on middle and working class Ohioans. By the way, Kurt, his main campaign promise is that he would push for a middle class tax cut. His party controls the Senate, the House, and the presidency, and all they got was a $20 billion tax increase, backed up, like you said, by 87,000 IRS agents who are going to harass people. The talking point here for the Democrats is these guys are only going to go after billionaires, but as you know, Kurt, there are about 800 billionaires, and we have plenty of IRS agents to go after the billionaires. These new agents are going to go after middle-class people, and even with the current IRS situation that we have, about 75%, as I understand it, the people who are audited tend to be middle class. So, the IRS is already a pretty broken organization, and they're just going to make it even worse.
JD Vance, there's a narrative out there that your race is in trouble. That Tim Ryan is surging, along with Grandpa Krusty and his aviator glasses. That the red wave is receding. Beware the blue wave. Are you seeing anything like that on the ground in Ohio as you campaign for the Senate?
No, I don't buy into this at all, Kurt. I mean, I was actually talking with Tom Cotton, the senator from Arkansas, one of our great U.S. senators, a couple weeks ago, and he brought up that in polling in July and August, he was allegedly behind his Democratic opponent by anywhere between 13 and 18 points. And then on the day of the election, apparently he was still down by a few, and of course he won by 17 points. Donald Trump was behind Joe Biden in 2020. He won by the state of Ohio by 8 points. This is all just a media operation, I think, to try to suppress Republican enthusiasm, but it doesn't work because, our voters, independents, moderates, Republicans, even some conservative Democrats, they don't believe the media, and they're not going to believe their narrative of the race. And I think we're winning. I think we'll win by a big margin on November.
Well, JD Vance, money, of course, is key. Are the Democrats funding Tim Ryan, or are they kind of showing their hand by kind of withholding it and spending it in places that they have more hope for?
Well, the National Democrats certainly have poured a lot of money into this race. I mean, this is a consistent story. It's true in Pennsylvania, in Ohio. It's true in Arizona, Nevada. It's really true across the board, where the Democrats have built this incredible fundraising platform. And let me tell you, Kurt, this is in part a big tech problem. So let me just give you a statistic. For every 10 fundraising emails that I send, to 9 of those emails, you would expect to be filtered by the big tech email filters into people's junk boxes. For every fundraising email that Tim Ryan sends, you'd expect that to happen to one of his emails. So because of this, they're able to raise a ton of money in small dollar political contributions. And we certainly, if you want to go to jdvance.com and help us out, we got to make sure the National Democrats don't buy this race. If you ask me if I'm worried, the answer is no. The one advantage the Democrats do have, and they have it every cycle, but they have it here for sure, is they just have a ton of money from out-of-state donors, and we have to do something about that.
Well, what are the big? One of the things that I have seen, JD Vance, as I've guest hosted for Hugh Hewitt for the last 2 days, is the incredible anger among the GOP base. I've never seen anything like it. I've been involved in politics for almost 40 years. Over this FBI raid, what is the feedback you're getting on the ground in Ohio about this travesty?
Well, Kurt, there's always been this debate the last year or so as I've been out on the campaign trail between, I would say, among the Republican intelligentsia. Should Trump run again? Should somebody else run again? I'll say the last week, what I've heard from the actual grassroots is absolutely Trump should run again. People are so angry at this FBI raid. And I really don't think people appreciate how much this is united, even maybe some Trump skeptical people behind the president, because whether you love Trump or don't, recognize this is an unfair thing. You cannot send the leader of the Department of Justice, you cannot send the FBI after a president like this without telling the American people why. That's the big thing here. You're talking about the future opposition leader of the party, the likely opponent of the Democrats in 2024, and they're not even telling us why they've raided his home. What they're doing is selective leaking to their preferred media outlets, which, of course, as you know, Kurt, those guys have never been wrong before. They've never told.
Well, it was there were the nuclear codes were hidden in Melania's bra drawer. Come on.
Yeah.
Remember that? That was, 2 days ago? Yesterday, we had we don't have the president's passports. And then a couple hours later, it's like, here are your passports. I mean, it's outrageous, but I think the point is the base is outraged. And when you get to the Senate, because you are going to beat Tim Ryan, the fake moderate, when you do get to the Senate, you're going to have to face the decision about what to do about the FBI. And I see a lot of Republicans go, well, we got to wait to see how things shake out. And, I'm not sure, really, we got to demand accountability. It's a lot of platitudes. But I think we need action. I think the base is going to demand action. What do you think we should actually do as opposed to somehow reinforce the false notion that these people are not political players?
Well, I think, first of all, we have to recognize who our voters are. And these are people who, in the midst of an inflation crisis, are ponying up what spare resources they have so that we can run TV ads. I mean, if we do take back the Senate, I think we will. It will be because a lot of our grassroots activists kept faith. And to me, they're calling for what is an obvious reality, which is investigate the leadership of the FBI, investigate the leadership of the DOJ. We know that these guys have engaged. Set aside the Trump stuff. We know that Merrick Garland ordered these guys to go after parents who were protesting at school board meetings. There's enough here to actually do some real oversight, which is one of Congress's most important constitutional prerogatives. We should use that oversight power and actually figure out what's going on. And if there's criminal activity, we should make sure that stuff gets prosecuted. I really think that we have to stop saying, hey, wait, let's wait and see. You can wait and see through the process of an investigation, but if you're not doing the investigations, wait and see is just a slogan to avoid dealing with the real substance.
Well, JD Vance, I think you're onto something with the base, because the base has already seen. We've seen an attempt to frame the president through the Russiagate thing. We saw someone convicted of lying on a warrant against a Trump associate. It is not open to question that they are trying to manufacture a solution to the Trump problem that doesn't involve them not engaging in politics that suck. They are going outside the Constitution, and I think it's very dangerous, and I think our folks are going to demand action. But there are a lot of Republicans who kind of want to go along, get along. You're going to Washington. You are expressly not a go-along, get-along guy. How are you going to deal with the pressure to conform and to, quote-unquote, trust the system?
Well, I think you have to put pressure in the other direction, and I think that when people make the argument that you trust the system, well, part of the system is Congress providing its constitutionally determined oversight, right? That's one of the main ways the system actually works. And I think for a lot of these guys who are saying, well, let's just sort of let the process play out. If by the process you mean selective leaks to the media where we don't actually learn anything, that's not the process playing out. That's corruption. The process playing out is us actually doing our job when we take back power in 2022.
Love to hear that. JD Vance, it's there are a lot of challenges facing the Republicans coming into the Senate. I think we are going to take the Senate. This 87,000 IRS agents issue is a real problem, and the base is going to demand action. Will you ever vote for a bill that funds these 87,000 new IRS pests?
No, absolutely not. And I think there's actually, as bad as this bill is, the one silver lining is that so much of this stuff is going to take effect in the next 10 years, in the next couple of years is where it really starts, but it doesn't finish taking effect. But I think if we take back the House and the Senate and actually stand tall on this stuff, we could undo a lot of damage from the Inflation Corruption Act, which I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop calling it the Inflation Reduction Act. It's just too much.
IRS Expansion Act.
Yeah, the IRS, whatever we're going to call it here.
Rich guy electric car subsidy.
That's right. I think there's a lot that we can do to push back on this stuff, but we got to get there, and we need people's help to do it. And then we also obviously have to think about 24 and make sure that hopefully we have a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and then a Republican president. Because the one big thing you really need a president on is this crisis at the border. We can make Joe Biden's life harder for not enforcing the border. And by the way, this is the most shameless thing that he and Tim Ryan have done is allow these communities in Ohio, these allegedly Tim Ryan's home, let these communities be flooded with fentanyl and sex trafficking. Completely
it's outrageous.
And we got to do something about it. And so we're going to make Joe Biden's life harder, but some of this stuff is going to be a lot easier the more and more we gain control.
Well, JD Vance running for the Senate in Ohio. Good luck to you. Real quick, about 5 seconds, how do we help you?
JDVance.com. Go there, support us, offer to volunteer. That's what we need. Thanks, Kurt.
Thank you, JD. Kurt Schlichter here, guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. I'll be followed by, coming up next, Senator Marsha Blackburn. Stick around.
Hi, it's Hugh. Don't go anywhere, America. I want to remind you, andrewandtodd.com, andrewandtodd.com, 888-888-1172. While I am out west interviewing would-be members of Congress, Republicans who are running for Congress in front of a Republican audience, it's really interesting for me to find the people who might be the next generation of superstars and interview them before anyone else knows they exist. I want you to remember Andrew and Todd continue to exist and continue to service your mortgage. They are lenders with the Air Pacific Mortgage, 888-888-1172. I don't know if Kurt Schlichter has used them. I know that everyone else on my team has, and I know that I have, and I know that my entire family has. And by use them, I mean finance the purchase of a new home or a second home or get a refinance. Or if you're a senior and you want to get money out of your house, that reverse mortgage, that's andrewandtodd.com, 888-888-1172. And while I have your attention, I took my relieffactor.com already this morning. You heard that in the first hour. Thousands of you, tens of thousands actually, of my listeners take it every single morning. Occasionally someone comes up to me and says, it didn't work for me. I've got this pain. I hear it. I understand. It's not foolproof. It's nature's anti-inflammatory medicine cabinet. It is not a magic wand. But what you do take, if you take it every day, is you take nature's anti-inflammatories. Carrion, curcumin, resveratrol, and omega. Stuff that helps you in many different ways, but especially with aging, with the aches and pains that come with exercise and aging. $19.95 gets you started on relieffactor.com. I talk about it 3 times in my daily show. At the bottom of the first hour when I take it, and then in hours 2 and 3 when I remind you to take it, depending on when your commute begins, because relieffactor.com works. It's the only supplement I've taken in 30 years of broadcasting. I've declined every other opportunity to take a supplement, and I'll tell you why. Because relieffactor.com actually works. I carry in curcumin, resveratrol, and omega, temporary support for the relief of minor aches and pains, and you can't do better than that 3-week starter pack, $19.95. Relieffactor.com works. I want to make sure that Kurt Schlichter doesn't take all the bags of Relief Factor out of Studio West, but he'll be back right after this. Stay tuned to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you by Food for the Poor.
We're back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter, closing it out for Hugh Hewitt. But we're ending on a high note with one of my favorite people when I guest host. It is Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn. And I'd like to welcome you to the Hugh Hewitt program. And I'm going to be in your state when I do Huckabee this Friday, and I'm staying the weekend.
Well, good for you. You're going to meet some of the nicest people, eat some of the best food, and you're going to have a great time.
Well, I am always excited to leave California and visit the United States of America. Senator Blackburn, your I've talked to a number of your constituents today. Everybody's very, very concerned about this IRS thing and about the FBI, and I know you've been out talking to the people of Tennessee about these very issues. What kind of feedback are you getting from your voters?
People are, as you said, just really upset about this issue with the IRS. They are upset about the raid at Mar-a-Lago. They don't understand why you would do this to a former president. And they find it very odd that what has transpired is that President Biden has been on vacation during all of this, really hasn't had anything to say. And people don't like two tiers of justice. They want one standard, equal access, equal treatment, equal justice for all.
Well, Senator Blackburn, I think it's very likely that we are going to take back, it's almost certain we take back the House. I think it's very, very likely that we take back the Senate in November. When the Republicans have the Senate, what are we going to do about this stuff and the out-of-control Joe Biden administration?
And, I think that one of the things we have to do is start taking control of the federal purse, because that is all taxpayer dollars. And we need to freeze federal spending, freeze federal hiring, and freeze federal employment. Just get it all to the point that we can say stop. And then we need to aggressively work on government reform initiatives and begin to look at these departments. Take, for instance, the VA. The VA has a 168,000 backlog in their cases, 168,000 cases that are backlogged. These are veterans who are waiting for health care and benefit decisions. Now, that's not right, and no veteran should be suffering through that. So let's say, okay, why is that happening? Why is the VA not doing that? How can we remedy this? Why do we have so many employees that are working for the U.S. Department of Education, but really aren't looking at how the policies and decisions they make affect children in the classroom? And they're making policies of convenience or because the teachers union says this works. Let's begin to reform and do the proper oversight in these departments. And I honestly think that is item number one, step number one. Pass these reforms and send them to Biden's desk. But as I said, to get the process started, let's freeze the spending, freeze salaries, freeze the hiring so that you're not making the problem worse. I don't know anybody. I've not met a single person that thinks it's a good idea to have 87,000 new IRS agents when we cannot get people hired to work on the southern border. I've not met anybody that says, oh, I think it's a great idea to have more people working remotely for the federal government when the federal government cannot respond to people now, whether it's the IRS, whether it is the VA, whether it's the EPA. They're all working remotely, which many times means working part-time.
Well, Senator Blackburn, I love to hear all that. You, of course, are one of my favorite guests here when I guest host for the great Hugh Hewitt. Real quick, let me ask you one question. Would you consider coming to California and being my senator?
Absolutely not.
Thank you very much, Martha Blackburn from the great state of Tennessee. I'm Kurt Schlichter. Adam, Jacob, and Dwayne, thank you all for helping me make this two-day stand here at the Hugh Hewitt program the smashing success it was. I'm Kurt Schlichter. Hugh will be back tomorrow. Adios.